Hey everyone. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about a situation that a client told me about this morning, and I'll keep it very vague so that it could be anyone at all. She described she did a presentation and she had been cut off before she was completely done by the woman who was running the event. And so the first thing that we talked about, she had a moment and she said, I wonder if this woman was jealous of me. And that's kind of a strange thought for her. She doesn't usually think that way. She's a very sensitive person. She like tends to think that everything's personal. So she was going to the place of like, I don't know if I did a good job. Okay, did other people say you did? Oh yeah, she got lots of positive feedback, but of course she was, as all our brains do, we hook onto the one that's not so positive. So she was hung up on this piece of feeling incomplete and as though she hadn't been allowed to draw it all through and feel respected in the time she had. So it was really interesting because when she had the moment of realizing that, hey, there might have been some jealousy involved in this, she was able in that moment to see a little bit of distance now between her own reaction to it and her assumptions that are tied to being cut off early, like, oh, I didn't do good enough. I'm not good enough. She was able to see for a second, okay, wait a second, maybe this wasn't just about my presentation. Maybe there was something more going on. So we spoke more about what part of her. I love going experiential, so I was like, this is great. This is a great example for you know, working with projection. First of all, on one side, the person who cut her off early may have, we don't know what she was thinking, and she may have been nervous or whatever, but what we do know is that there was probably some projection that seemed right to this client, that yeah, there felt like that rings a bell, there felt like something was there because no one else got cut off. And just being able to identify that that was a possibility allowed her to identify where there might have been that introjection. So taking in the projection. So in other words, you're kind of identifying with the beliefs that are maybe the thoughts and beliefs that the other has about you. So what happens there in that kind of situation is that you tend to really almost have a self-fulfilling prophecy. You unconsciously are in this dance with them where you're maybe becoming more and more of what they think you are, but actually you rationally that no, my project went well, my performance was good, or my presentation was exactly what I wanted to say right up until that last minute, but you got stuck in the process. And so you keep hooking into it and feeling like you weren't good enough. And that's what was going on for her. So it was quite cool because we were able to re-enter that moment where she felt like, oh, like, things got, um, like things didn't go right kind of thing. And she got to go back into that moment, see if there was a part of her that was like hooking into really wanting something, and this again is like very natural. You want to have a good presentation, you want to be good. But she described that there was this extra perfectionism, there was this people pleasing. So it was like we identified, okay, so there was actually a sense in your body that there was a threat. And yeah, this woman held that for her. And so she experienced it that way. And it felt like a really crushing moment when she was interrupted. And so we went back in there and we questioned whether there was anything that her people pleaser could have used. Was there anything she needed in that moment? And what this client found was even just the acknowledgement that she was there was already a huge shift. It was like a huge weight off her shoulders to go, oh, yeah, it wasn't all of me. It was a part that was kind of hanging on and entangling with that woman's uh, ideas about her. So basically there was this real craving for her approval. When she recognized that, she let it go, and there was a big shift. And then we just went a little further in there just to see what would it have been like if she would have been able to complete. And she actually imagined going through those steps of finishing her talk and having that full space to draw it all the way through. And that was the real, I think that was the where the lasting shift probably happened. I mean, we'll check in next week, but my guess is that that's where things really, really shifted, because she was able to feel this real sense of lightness after that. She was no longer obsessed with the scenario and thinking it over and over. She actually felt genuine. It has to feel genuine, but she genuinely did feel that something pulled through there. So that's just another example of focusing. And in this case, I'm describing focusing when, hey, there might be some jealousy of you. And so it could be tempting to try to make yourself shine less and make yourself smaller so that they will approve of you, this other person. But the truth of the matter is that the real antidote would be them getting to know you and seeing that, oh, you're probably more complex than whatever they might be thinking, or yeah, you're just an infallible human like them. So, so that's usually the real antidote to jealousy. But on the way there, to recognize what actually happened inside of you that hooked into the complex, really, and what part of you actually was maybe it kind of like it was like your boundaries got porous and you merged with the other. So what part do you need to take back to feel on center, to feel okay, whether they like you or not? That's not in your control. But as a thought, that's not, in my opinion, that's not so helpful, just to know that. Just there's that great quote that says, what somebody else is thinking about you is none of your business. I love that quote. But just knowing that in your head, in your thinking mind, isn't always enough. So to actually have that practice of going right into that place, into those more subtle layers within you, and meeting your own needs in that moment. Um, yeah, I would love to know any questions you have about that, or any examples that you've had in your life around this, or in the last little while. So feel free to share.